internet, it's me. Um, wow. Okay, so I just finished watching a movie, Escape from Tomorrowland, and yeah. Now, going into this, when I make the list of movies that I'm going to watch each year, I never, I don't look too much into the movies. I basically just look for anything in the horror or thriller or suspense genre, or anything with horror like themes, like vampires, werewolves, that kind of deal, and I just stick them on a list and I watch them going in completely blind. So that's what happened here. Uh, and had I read more into things, I would have found that most reviews for this movie are 1 or 2 stars out of 5. That apparently it was guerrilla filmmaking, meaning they went to Disney without permissions of the company and illegally filmed in their parks and hotels. Um, I also would have found out that this is just awful. Now, oh, where to even begin? Okay, so let me just do a quick synopsis first. This guy goes to Disney with his wife and his children. And as the movie opens, he's on the phone and finds out that he was fired. And then they go into the parks. And there's a bunch of sick people on a train, coughing and stuff around him. He's noticing and kind of grossed out a little. And then he sees some teenage, or possibly even preteen, French girls. And he kind of gets that lecherous look that's not okay. And then they go on to do more stuff in the park. At one point, they ride on the It's a Small World ride, and he starts seeing all the animatronics and figures in the ride as demons, which is fair. I was on that ride once as a small child, and it was awful. Um, and then from there, things just get way weirder. He starts stalking these teenage girls around the park for no reason. He starts having all kinds of hallucinations. He finds out that the turkey legs are actually emu. Um, oh yeah, and then he's imprisoned under one of the rides after he has a vision of it exploding, and he finds out that the person that imprisoned him is a scientist that knew him as a child and is also an android. And then he escapes and eventually just pukes himself to death because of cat flu. So yeah, it's a weird movie. Um, and it's not a good movie. Now, I know guerrilla filmmaking is supposed to be like this avant-garde kind of, oh, the true artiste. No, bullshit. Guerrilla filmmaking is basically just, hey, we don't have the money to put together a real film, so we're just going to try to bootleg something together and make it sound fancier than it is by saying, look how edgy we are. That it doesn't make it a good movie, and this was not a good movie. The acting was, well, honestly, the acting might have been one of the only good parts. It wasn't terrible. It was creepy, but it was supposed to be. I mean, the guy's, I'm not going to say the P word, but he's awfully interested in these girls that are absolutely not 18. But it's not good. The whole thing's shot in black and white because they had to shoot with the little, handy cams that a tourist would use, so they couldn't get like high def, anything like that. They couldn't really do the lighting or any of that, so, they did the best they could with a lot of stuff. The effects when you see them are surprisingly not awful. When all the It's a Small World things turn into like demons, it's kind of cool. It looks like actually that he's using like a phone filter, because you'll notice as he's on this ride, the dolls, when they're not facing him, look normal, but then as soon as they come into focus, or as soon as they turn the face toward him, then their face snaps into like the evil demon face. So I legitimately think they edited those bits by just applying a phone filter to them. And once it recognized the face, that's when it became creepy. Which, I mean, an interesting take, an interesting way to do it, but it worked, so hey, good for you. They had to change a lot of the music, of course. They didn't do the "It's the Small World After Nightmare," which is great because no one needs that in their head. But obviously, they didn't do any of this with Disney's approval, so they couldn't use that music. They were going to get sued already as it is. So the music they did was kind of generic, but it was fine. It kind of fit the themes. There's a couple parts in the credits where they used the Disney font, which again, it's fine. It fits the themes. It works. Like, artistically and videography-wise, everything here was just fine, if not even maybe better than fine. Um, the problem is the movie itself is just. I don't like that he's obsessed with these two teenage girls. That's really creepy. And then there's this one fat guy in a wheelchair that he's just constantly focusing on. He bumps into him multiple times. It just gets angrier and angry at this guy, and it just comes off as, depending on whether or not the guy is just fat using a wheelchair or is actually disabled, it's either fat phobic or ableist. And either way, that's not great. It just, I don't know. A lot of stuff here feels off. It feels wrong. The characters aren't super likable. Even the children can just randomly be bratty and crappy for no reason. And the mom is just an absolute nag most of the time. The father, when he's not being a creep, is having his weird hallucinations and just being a bit of a dick. There's no likable characters, and a lot of the story elements, while interesting on their own, don't always connect together in a logical way. Some of his hallucinations kind of go unexplained. Some of the shots draw too long and linger on something that isn't actually important. And again, there's a lot of B-roll put in there, which there has to be because they don't have actors, they don't have extras, they can't do multiple takes. They kind of just have to shoot what they can shoot and then hope it works out later. So, I get why some of the stuff is the way it is, but in the end, it doesn't come out to being an interesting movie. And on top of all that, it is a slog to get through. This is a real slow burn. You start seeing the hallucinations semi early on, so there's a hint of something's going to happen, but it takes so long to actually take off and proceed to become a story. And then when it finally is, the part where he has the vision of the big Epcot ball exploding and then the android and all that stuff, that's all in the third act. So the first hour of the movie is a whole lot of nothing. This really could have been a short film. The last half hour could have stayed, and that first hour could have been shrunk down to about 15 minutes, and this could all clock in at under 45. This could have been so much smaller, and it could have just been a nice, concise story. Also, I'm not sure why it's called horror. There was no horror elements to this movie. The guy dies at the end, but it's not I don't know. When I go into a horror movie, you think of all the horror monsters, whether it's a gore fest like a See No Evil or that kind of thing, or a slasher film like Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween, or even the supernatural horror, like most of the Del Toro stuff. They all have kind of a vibe that you understand this is what horror is. And this movie felt more like a boring drama with some boobs, and then a guy dies at the end. After coughing up hairballs, so it's not even really a gruesome death, it's just a weird and kind of gross one. So, I wouldn't consider this horror. I also wouldn't recommend it as a movie. This was just overall bad, really. It's not a great time. The scariest thing about it is the knowledge that you'll never get that hour and a half back in your life. So definitely don't watch this. You're not going to have fun. You're just going to want to take a shower afterward because it's really gross. So, yeah. I think that's where I'm at. I'm not happy about any of this. This is really unpleasant. I'm going to go, pet my dog or hug the snakes or something. I need to do something that doesn't feel icky. So, yeah, I'll see you later with hopefully a movie that just is way less gross.